Indian-made artillery shells are currently landing on the active battlefields of Ukraine, being fired directly at Russian soldiers. In July 2024, the Russian foreign minister sat across from his Indian counterpart to address this development. Moscow, India's primary arms supplier for half a century, was lodging a formal protest over weapons it didn't sell. These munitions enter the supply chain as empty 155mm shell casings. Indian factories sell the steel to European defense contractors, who fill them with explosives and forward them east. This diplomatic friction marks a complete reversal of the historical order. For 50 years, India was the world's largest arms importer, a country so reliant on foreign hardware that it bought more than China and Saudi Arabia combined. Between 2010 and 2014, India was responsible for 12% of the entire global arms trade. 72% of those imports, fighter jets, tanks, and submarines, came from a single source, Russia. Somewhere in the last decade, the world's most dependent buyer transformed into a seller, providing the munitions that Russia's own soldiers are now dodging. For decades, India's domestic manufacturing was limited to what critics called screwdriver production. The military bought the rights to assemble foreign weapons locally, but the engineering and design work remained in foreign capitals. This reliance wasn't inevitable. In 1961, India flew the Marut, Asia's first homegrown supersonic fighter. It was designed by Kurt Tink, the engineer behind some of Germany's most advanced World War II aircraft. Despite a 2-decade head start over regional rivals, the program was starved of funding. Military leadership increasingly preferred the perceived prestige of imported jets over domestic innovation. The consequences of that preference became clear during the 1998 nuclear tests. Within days of the explosions, Western partners froze critical military supplies mid-delivery, leaving India's hardware without the parts needed to stay operational. 1 year later, with soldiers dying on the frozen ridgelines of the Kargil War, India asked for GPS data on enemy positions. The request was denied. These dependencies acted as a leash. Every imported weapon was attached to a string that ran back to the seller's capital. One pull from afar could ground an entire air force. In 2014, India exported defense equipment worth only 686 crore rupees. The world's largest buyer of weapons sold virtually nothing to the rest of the planet. To address this, the government launched Atmanirbhar Bharat, a doctrine built on a series of unglamorous bureaucratic shifts designed to force domestic purchasing. Strict import bans on hundreds of items forced the military to buy locally, redirecting billions from foreign suppliers into Indian factories. State-owned monopolies were broken, opening contracts to private startups. Within a decade, domestic defense production nearly tripled, crossing the 1.5 lakh crore mark. While these internal policies built the infrastructure, becoming a global arms dealer required finding customers willing to bet their national survival on Indian hardware. India found its first major success with mid-sized nations facing existential threats, countries that needed advanced hardware without the political conditions attached by traditional superpowers. Armenia, having lost the 2020 Nagorno-Karabakh War to advanced drone strikes, found its traditional supplier, Russia, distracted and unreliable. With Western sellers hesitant to enter the region, Armenia turned to New Delhi. Armenia signed for the Akash air defense system, followed by Pinaka rocket launchers and artillery. By 2024, 43% of Armenia's military imports were coming from India. In the South China Sea, the Philippines sought to change naval math by purchasing BrahMos, supersonic cruise missiles traveling 3 times the speed of sound. India offered functional stockpiles, prices the West couldn't match, and invoices without political lectures. These deals were a verdict on India's new status. Nations facing high-risk conflicts were now replacing Russian and Western systems with Indian ones. In the global arms market, brochures are secondary to combat performance. The final objection to Indian weapons was the lack of a proven record in active warfare. That changed in May 2025 during Operation Senindora. Indian air defense systems were shown on live television, successfully intercepting modern drone and missile threats. While multi-year contracts provided the foundation, this combat validation acted as a catalyst. In the following financial year, defense exports surged 62% to a record 38,424 crore rupees. The shift reached even traditional exporters like France, which began evaluating Indian-made Pinaka rockets for its own army, alongside inquiries from South America and the Gulf. Combat success provided the one advertisement that government policy alone could not buy. This brings the story back to the shells in Ukraine. European nations are currently leveraging Indian factory capacity to meet demand because India is one of the few suppliers capable of delivering the necessary volume. India remains the world's second largest importer. Many of its most advanced platforms still rely on American engines or foreign submarine designs. However, the dependency has shifted. The 72% reliance on Russian imports has collapsed to 40%, and the leash of the previous decade has loosened. India is no longer just a buyer seeking security from abroad. It has become the supplier other nations call when their survival is on the line.